Hey, welcome to Shift. I'm Elliot, and this is where we hit life's shortcut keys together. If you're new here, the concept is pretty simple. You know how on your computer you've got those trusty shortcuts like copy, paste, undo? They save time, they save energy, and honestly, sometimes they save the day. Well, I believe life has those too. We just have to remember to press them. Today, we are talking about a shortcut that I have been leaning on heavily lately. It's Ctrl plus F. And we're using it to tackle a topic that feels really loud right now: finding courage in uncertainty. Let me paint a picture for you. It's 11:30 p.m. The house is finally quiet. My wife is asleep. My daughters, Clara and Lucy, are finally down for the count. And I'm lying in bed, phone in hand, just scrolling. You know the scroll. It's not the fun scroll where you're watching dogs on skateboards. It's the doom scroll. I'm reading headlines about the economy, then a scary article about AI taking my job, then a post about how I'm probably feeding my kids the wrong kind of berries. And suddenly the future feels like this massive, overwhelming wall of text. It's millions of words, and they all spell doom. I feel small. I feel paralyzed. I have no idea what's going to happen next year or even next month. Ever been there? Standing on the edge of a big I don't know? Maybe you're waiting on medical test results. Maybe you're in between jobs. Or maybe you're just looking at the state of the world and thinking, how am I supposed to navigate this? When the document of our lives gets too long and too complicated, we tend to freeze. We get lost in the noise. That is exactly when we need to hit Ctrl plus F. Okay, let's ground this. What does Ctrl plus F actually do? It stands for find. Imagine you have a 500-page PDF. Maybe it's a massive contract or a transcript or a giant chaotic spreadsheet. If you try to read every single line to find what you need, you'll go cross-eyed. You'll miss it. It's too much data. But if you hit Ctrl F, a little search bar pops up. You type in exactly what you're looking for, say your name or a specific invoice number. And here's the magic part. The computer ignores the 499 pages of irrelevant noise. It jumps immediately to the thing you need. It highlights it in bright yellow. It says, here it is. I found it. It doesn't delete the rest of the document. The noise is still there. But your focus is laser locked on the one thing that matters. So how does this apply to us, to our anxiety, to our uncertainty? Here's the thing. Uncertainty is just noise. It's a 500-page document of what ifs. What if the project fails? What if I'm not a good enough parent? What if the car breaks down? When we are scared, our brains default to reading the whole document. We try to process every possible bad outcome. We drown in the text. Control F is the active decision to stop reading the noise and start searching for the signal. It's saying, okay, I don't know what happens in Chapter 10, but right now I need to find courage. I need to find a solution. I need to find a moment of peace. Courage isn't about knowing the whole story. Courage is about knowing how to find the specific thread you need to pull to keep going. It's about selective attention. Let's dive a little deeper into why this works, and honestly, why it's so hard to do. There's a mechanism in your brain called the Reticular Activating System, or the RAS. It's basically your brain's bouncer. It decides what information gets into your conscious mind and what gets ignored. If your brain let in every sound, sight, and sensation you experience every second, you'd pass out. It has to filter. I call this the yellow car theory. If I tell you, hey, count how many yellow cars you see today, what happens? Suddenly, the highway is full of them. You see them parked, you see them driving, you see them in commercials. Did everyone suddenly buy a yellow car? No, they were always there. But now you have Control F for yellow car. Your RAS is highlighting them. Here is the kicker. This works for fear, too. If you wake up in the morning and your internal search bar is typed to "why today is going to suck," your RAS will find evidence for that. You'll notice the coffee stain, the traffic, the rude email. You will miss the nice text from your friend or the sunshine because you're not searching for that. I see this with my kids all the time. My youngest, Lucy, she's 3. If she wakes up on the wrong side of the bed, which is, let's be honest, 50% of the time, she is Ctrl Fing for injustice. My sock feels weird. Clara looked at me. The toast is too toasty. She's hunting for reasons to be upset. But as adults, we do this with uncertainty. We hunt for reasons to be afraid. We scroll the news searching for evidence that the world is ending. To find courage, we have to manually delete that search query and type in a new one. We have to tell the bouncer what to let in. This brings me to the second big point. When we are facing a big unknown, like a career pivot or a health scare, we usually feel unqualified. We feel small. We look at the problem and think, I can't handle this. This is where you need to Ctrl F for evidence of competence. A few years ago, before I started this podcast, I was transitioning from full-time employment to freelance consulting. I was terrified. We had just had Clara. I was the sole earner at the time. I remember sitting at my kitchen table staring at a blank screen, convinced I was going to ruin our lives. My brain was running a search for failures. It was pulling up every mistake I'd made since high school. Remember that time you got fired? Highlighted. Remember that time you lost that client? Highlighted. I had to physically stop myself. I closed my eyes and I forced myself to run a different search. I asked myself, Elliot, when was a time you figured it out? And slowly the highlights changed. I remembered navigating a tough layoff years ago. I remembered learning how to be a dad when I had zero clue what I was doing. I remembered fixing the sink last week, even though I am not a plumber. I found evidence of competence. The uncertainty of freelancing hadn't changed. The scary text was still there, but I reminded myself that I am a person who figures things out. When you are scared, you have amnesia. You forget how strong you are. You forget how many hard days you have already survived. Spoiler alert, you have survived 100% of them so far. You need to Ctrl F your own history to find the proof that you can handle the unknown. One last angle on this, and I think this is the most important one for anyone feeling overwhelmed right now. Ctrl F is specific. It finds one thing. Anxiety wants you to read the whole document. Anxiety says, okay, but what are we doing for retirement in 2050? And how will we pay for college? And what if the climate shifts in 10 years? That is trying to read the whole encyclopedia at once. No wonder we're exhausted. Using Ctrl F means looking only for the next right step. There's a quote often attributed to E.L. Doctorow about writing, but it applies to life perfectly. He said, it's like driving a car at night. You can only see as far as your headlights, but you can make the whole trip that way. Ctrl F is your headlights. I have to use this with my daughter Clara. She's 5 and she's a planner. If we have a busy Saturday, she can get really anxious about the schedule. But Daddy, what if we're late for the party? And what if I don't like the food? And what if... She spirals. I have to get down to her level and say, Clara, pause. We aren't at the party yet. We aren't even in the car. Right now, we're just looking for shoes. Can you help me Ctrl F for your sneakers? And she blinks. The panic subsides a little. She has a mission. Find the sneakers. Once the sneakers are on, okay, now we Ctrl F for the keys. When you are in a season of high uncertainty, stop trying to solve the problems of next month. You can't find them yet. They aren't in the document yet. Just Ctrl F for today's mission. Ctrl F, send that one email. Ctrl F, drink a glass of water. Ctrl F, hug my kids. That's it. That is how you walk through the dark, one highlighted word at a time. Okay, this all sounds good in theory, right? But how do we actually do this when the cortisol is pumping and we're stressing out? Here are 3 ways to press Ctrl F this week. 1. Prime your search. The morning question. Before you check your phone, before you let the world tell you what to look for, set your own search terms. Ask yourself one question while you're brushing your teeth. What is one thing going right in my life? Or what is one thing I'm excited about today? Force your RAS to look for the good stuff early. If you don't type in a search term, the world will type one in for you, and usually it's stress. 2. The evidence log. If you are dealing with imposter syndrome or big anxiety, get a physical notebook. Call it your evidence log. Write down 3 times in your life where you were scared, but you did it anyway, or 3 times where things went wrong and you fixed it. When the panic hits, open that book. Read the data. You need proof that you are capable. Keep that proof handy. 3. Spot the helpers. This is a classic Mr. Rogers tip, but it's basically Ctrl F for humanity. When the news is scary, look for the people who are helping. In your own life, when you feel overwhelmed, Ctrl F for your team. Who can help? You don't have to read the whole document alone. Find a friend, find a mentor, find a therapist. Highlight them and call them. All right, I want to give you a specific challenge for this week, a little homework assignment. I want you to play the glimmer game. In psychology, we talk about triggers, things that spark trauma or fear, but the opposite of a trigger is a glimmer. A glimmer is a micro moment of safety, connection, or joy. It's the way the light hits the leaves at 4 p.m. It's the smell of coffee. It's a funny text from your brother. Your challenge is to Ctrl F for glimmers every single day this week. I want you to find 3 of them daily. You don't have to post them on Instagram. You don't have to write a poem about them. Just notice them. Say to yourself, there's one. Train your brain to see that even in the chaotic, scary document of life, there are still highlighted words of beauty. They are there. You just have to find them. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today on Shift. I know things might feel heavy right now. I know the uncertainty is loud, but remember, you have the controls. You can choose what you focus on. You can choose to find the courage that is already hiding in the text of your life. If this episode helped you find a little clarity, do me a huge favor. Hit subscribe, and maybe share this with a friend who's been feeling a little lost lately. Send them a text and say, hey, found this for you. Next time, we're going to be talking about a shortcut that is all about expanding your horizons. We're hitting Ctrl T, opening a new tab. We're going to talk about why, as adults, we need to be bad at new things and the power of exploring new hobbies as therapy. It's going to be a fun one. Until then, keep it light, keep it real, and remember, sometimes all you need is a little shift.